The PDF downloads of new books 2 and 6 are in the links below the description of this video, including a link to the website DuaneTheGreatWriter.net, where new books 1 to 9 can be purchased from lulu.com in paperback, and the Kindle editions from Amazon.co.uk. New Book 2, A Journey to Real Freedom, Part 26. As I grew older, I became the teenager, and there were times when I forgot about the other worlds, because my earthly life was taking more of my attention as I was being educated. I was now the teenager, and I seemed to know everything, just like the rest of my friends. I finally figured out that Mum knew nothing, but that she was good to have around to take care of me. What an attitude parents have to deal with while supporting their children. As I look back, I am amazed at how many years I was in the dark about who I was on this physical level. ReBISAR and Ursha were always the same in my dream experiences, and he said I would grow out of the silliness of the centralized ego someday, where most people never do. He never really said anything about how I was acting sometimes, or how obnoxious I was at times. It wasn't that I was a bad person. I was just going through being a bit funny for a while. When you're being weird, you never really see it yourself. You always think everyone else is weird. Anyhow, so much for the description that so many of us have already experienced, especially if you have had your own little weirdos. At times, I had to force myself to keep my attention on my dreams, because the outer was taking so much of my life. Being a teenager was not easy, but it does seem to be cool while you're acting out the part. Being the teeny bopper, I had to keep up the funny front that seems to be so important to us kids. Knowledge can be dangerous to teenagers because with it they think they can do anything. This is usually the reigning attitude of the modern generation, especially with what our controlled social order has become. Teenagers have their own dramas going on, mainly in their heads. Of course, not all people are the same. Some get to experience a good discipline that makes their life better. As I look back, I can see why ReBiSar never really said anything about what I was going through. It was pretty boring stuff that meant a lot of nothing, but was probably pretty funny to him. It was as though I had to go through it and finally see it for what it really is, as a comparison, to really appreciate what I already knew. It was also at a young age that I really got into the comic book fad. To me, it was much more than just reading comics. I knew what they were writing about was real. Not on this level of life so much, but somewhere in life where we are all free to be real. For me, it was the reality of being with ReBiSar and all that I could dream up. I had so many dream experiences where I was Superman or Green Lantern. When Mum and I first came to California, I started watching TV a lot, and my favourite TV show was Superman. All I thought about was Superman. I even taught myself to draw, like the artists that made the comic books. Since then, I have become a very good artist and use my creativeness with others. As I am writing this, I recall a very interesting dream experience I had when I was a teenager, where I was Superman. In the experience, I was trying to fly from the ground, and I would leap up into the air, but all these faceless people were grabbing my legs and holding me back. Not only was I Superman in the experience, but I could see myself from the viewpoint of my real awareness. In other words, I was watching myself being held back from the experience of flying above everything. It wasn't until years later that I realized what the experience meant. The faceless people represented my agreement to my social environment and conditioning that I had accepted, or what is known as the social consciousness, and Superman is the real awareness being held back by the limitations that have been agreed upon with the social order of things. As the know-it-all teenager, I had taken on more than I had realized. We can each have real experiences and also dream experiences that provide many lessons for us. All of us have so many different areas to our being, which is why those who do have a recollection of their real experiences are doing so many different things in them. And it is at first hard to recognize what is taking place in the other worlds. Most people feel they are just the limited human self, and they must comply with what everyone has decided and continually follow along. I like the life Peter Pan decided, where he did not want to stay with Wendy and grow older. Sometimes we do grow older in the physical awareness, but if we grow older in our heart, then we become lost to the forces that exist in time and space. Then we are dragged around by the controlling deceptors that rule the 3 lower life levels, and must recycle until we are guided out of these limited and sometimes dead zones. This is why I love the lifestyle of REBISAR, as he always lives without restrictions. His life is beyond any belief, and he is willing to teach others how to have the same opportunity. All of us have so many real experiences where we try to escape or rise above something to get a better view of what we are going through. when the average person doesn't know what their experiences mean, nor take the time to investigate, they are limiting themselves to their personal, physical, unconscious arenas of understanding. Most of the dream interpretation on the market today is usually very limited, if not worthless. It really depends upon the awareness of the person doing the interpretation. There are so many rogues that market their divine documentation to the public, just like the ancient systems that already exist. None of them imply real freedom, but they do imply a lot of rules and regulations, along with fear and guilt. Anyhow, anyone can do a little research on their own and eventually recognize real experience and find out for themselves, especially when they learn to contact REBISAR. Each of us can gain a real strength within ourselves, and it really doesn't matter how we do it. What I have learned is that if something helps you to get through all the silliness that the outer life seems to produce, then it serves as a benefit. We have the right to decide what our life is to be, no matter what we are told from others. As we grow older in the body, our considerations change, and there is more concern for the outer life and what it entails. Most people limit themselves to what everyone else has decided. Those who do have the opportunity to explore and discover wonderful, unseen realities beyond the standard choices usually have chosen not to. The reason is simple. Most people are satisfied with an agreed-upon conformity without truly realizing what they have agreed to. To simplify this, it would be termed the unconscious agreement to return in a new body on Earth and try to figure out again why you are really here. It was a strange time in my life, being a teenager and in high school. I really did not care for high school at all. until I learned about surfing and became absent a lot. I went through it and had my thrills like everyone else. But there was always something else. Something that I was not totally recognizing, pulling at me from within. It was a rather uneasy time, because I didn't like being confined inside all day long while the sun was shining, especially when I started surfing at about 14. For some people, high school was fun, but they didn't know what I knew. I would have rather been at the beach, discovering what else I could do in the water, and having fun riding the waves. Some people are very physical with their lives, while others, such as writers and artists, are more into the other worlds. These people usually see things beyond the everyday solidness, and are usually looked upon as something special. The invented systems on Earth are geared to keeping a person's attention to this level only, but the best part of living is knowing the true reality is, while you are still here. This is the opportunity that gives you a head start into a real freedom that cannot be found in any physical sense. This becomes a real risk-taker position that most people will quickly shy away from. Most people do not understand where their imagination can connect them to. Actually, your imagination can go into levels beyond what we can even consider to exist with the mental senses. Our imagination is an important part of ourselves, and it serves as a release for so many things that corner us into a situation that we do not want in our lives. The imagination can be a good tool to help us along the road of life, to better understand ourselves, and can also be used as one of the ways to make the real connection to the true reality life is.